الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن، خلق الإنسان علمه البيان، الشمس والقمر بحسبان، والنجم والشجر يسجدان، والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان، وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان، والأرض وضعها للأنام، فيها فاكهة ونخل ورمان، فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام، والحب ذو العصف والريحان، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار، وخلق الجان من مارج من نار، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، رب المشرقين ورب المغربين، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، مرج البحرين يلتقيان، بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام، فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان، كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام، فبأي آلاء ربك ربكما تكذبان يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمني وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Okay, everybody hear me okay? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. SubhanAllah, that was a nice reading. That's such a barakah to have somebody in the house who can read like that. Allah increase everybody and then increase our love for the Quran. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. As Brother Khalid mentioned, I think coming into this setting, I think first realize, inshallah, that trying to make the effort and trying to have monthly family nights, the purpose of it first and foremost, I think is to bring us all together. And I want to start off with dua. Allahumma alif bayna qulubina wa aslih dhata baynina. Allah, join our hearts together and reconcile between us. Because when we come together in this room, we're coming together for the sake of Allah. That's for one thing. Secondly, we're coming into this room for the intention, we're coming with good intentions to seek Allah's reward, to learn something, and to build love and community between one another. I'm messing around with this thing. Y'all can hear me? Okay. To build community with one another. And through that, we're resurrecting the sunnah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Afshu salam wa at'imu ta'am. Spread salams with one another and feed each other. And that's what we're doing in this room. When we come in with love and good intentions towards each other, when we're coming in smiling, saying salams towards each other, we're building that love. We're building love for the sunnah. We're resurrecting the sunnah. And so through that, inshallah, Allah bless this gathering. Allah bless the people who are here. Allah bless, give us faraj and afiyah for anybody who's going through tribulations in this room, and for families who are going through tribulations in this room. And we make dua, inshallah, that Allah bless this community, and not just this community, but any other community in this area, in the valley, in the greater area, who are trying to build their masajid up, who are trying to build their schools up. Allah give them success. Allah give them tawfiq. Make dua for this community. Make dua for the people who are involved, the leaders, the administration, the volunteers. And of course, you can help out a little bit by giving financial support. But alhamdulillah, today's topic is the challenge of raising righteous youth. Why being around Muslims is not enough. And that last part, why being around Muslims is not enough, I think that's the most interesting part of the equation. The reason why it came up, well, first of all, I think when we did our feedback from the last family night, a lot of people said they wanted topics on parenting. And so that was one of the things we said, okay, let's do something on parenting. And inshallah, we'll try to bring more speakers that are more qualified than me by any means to talk about this issue. But this was one of the topics that was suggested. And the part about why Muslims why being around Muslims is not enough comes from, I think, my generation. When we grew up in the Bay Area in the 90s and the 2000s, a lot of the parents at that time had this ideology, and these established Muslim communities, these strong Muslim communities, that, hey, I just need to send my kids to the masjid. I just need my circle to be Muslims and everything is going to be okay. They're going to be protected from harm. They're going to be fine. Everything is going to be cool. And now our generation that's growing up right now, when we're having conversations as we're raising our kids and we're trying to build communities, we realize like there were a lot of mistakes from that assumption. The assumption that I'm just going to drop my kids off to the masjid. I don't care what's happening, but they're at the masjid, they're around Muslim kids and everything's good. That was a trap that many parents fell into, and there were haphazards associated with that. And I see this new generation, my generation coming up, we have the same attitude. I fall into that same trap all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm happy, alhamdulillah, Zaytech, Muslim community, Muslim friends, everything is cool. No, it's not. I have to remind myself first. And so that's why we targeted that point, or targeting that point, because I think it's an interesting part of the conversation. Now, before we delve into the main points, I want to go over two things first, okay? Two issues. The first one, whenever we approach this conversation about righteous youth, we come from a point of negativity, and we start by alienating the youth. So we talk about this, approach this conversation as if our youth are at the edge of the hellfire, and we're trying to pull them back on a leash, and if we let go slightly, they're just going to jump into evil. Like they're just going to jump in with the shaitan. That's our perspective. That's how we approach these conversations. And I remember being a kid coming into lectures like this, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, the speaker is going to say something crazy. My parents are going to be, affected by it, and I'm not going to have TV for a month. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to go on my computer. I'm not going to be able to go out. I remember feeling like that, feeling very alienated by these conversations. So the first thing we want to do is we want to ease, especially the youth here sitting, is that this is not an attack on the youth. This is just a concern from a parent's point of view. And when you're a parent, inshallah, you know exactly where we're coming from. But you are not in a position where you are, evil kids who are just wanting to go into the haram. We need to approach this conversation from a place of love. One of the things that we don't teach rahmah enough, that the emotion of rahmah is love. It means mercy, rahmah, but the emotion is love. That's how we should understand it. The word comes from rahim, which is the womb. And the Prophet ﷺ in the famous hadith mentions that when the Prophet ﷺ is describing Allah's rahmah to the Sahaba and comparing the majesty of Allah's rahmah, he's pointing to a mother who's lost her child and finally reunited with her. The love of a mother and a child, that's what the Prophet ﷺ is using to describe rahmah. So when you hear the word rahmah, you should automatically think in your heart love. When you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you should think that this means that I'm seeking the help and the blessings of Allah, who loves me more than anybody else. And that's what I want the youth in here to understand today. If that's the only thing you get out of the lecture, 100%, that's fine. You can go home with that. You could blank out for the rest of the lecture. I don't care. I want that in your hearts. I want you to understand that to the fullest. Allah loves you the most. And that's the thing, is that when we teach our kids, especially when our kids reach the age of bulugh, right? The age of discretion, when we say, oh, your sins start to count and you have to pray and this and that, it's such a heavy feeling sometimes. Because I remember being that way too. The kids are feeling like, I was praying when I was younger, but now I'm at this age in my teenager, I'm 13, 14, 15, I'm not praying at all. I don't want to do ibadah. I just want to listen to music. I just want to watch TV. I just want to talk with my friends. And you feel like a bad Muslim. And again, that's a wrong point to start off with. The scholars mention, the comment now that the youth is until the age of 40, right? It's not from a hadith. This is like sharh that the ulama have pulled out. That youth is until the age of like 35, 40 or so. Why do they say that? One of the wisdoms of that teaching is that Allah is giving you time to grow in your iman, to have yaqeen, in your tarbiyah. Allah has given you that time. You youth are starting out at a vulnerable age. You're starting out. Allah understands your situation more than anyone else. أَوَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَعْلَمَ بِمَا فِي صُدُورِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Allah is the most knowing of what is in the chest, in the hearts of all in creation. So Allah knows what you're going through, right? Allah knows that you are exposed to the most haram probably than any previous generation. Exposed to the most harm before any previous generation. Not only are you exposed to the more haram, but you also are exposed to ideological threats, ideologies that compromise Islam, that conflict with Islam, that cause you doubts. So you have this dual threat that you're trying to manage. Allah understands that. You have until the age of 40 to grow in your deen. The red flag is that if you don't make those spiritual changes, that's a problem. And that's more towards us as parents. That are we, putting our, walking the walk? Have we made those spiritual changes in our lives as we're growing older? And the second aspect of that is that in regards to the youth, like I said, I remember being that age. And I remember feeling like, when I used to listen to lectures and people talking about these great youth and Sahaba and this and that, and I didn't feel any of it. What I felt was, I barely pray 5 times a day. Like, what are you talking about? Ali did this. Osama bin Zayd did this. Did all these great things. I didn't do, I can't even pray. I can't remember to pray 5 times a day. But when I say this, and I'm going to keep repeating this, that Allah knows what is in your hearts, that Allah knows who's the most righteous amongst us. So we cannot enter this conversation trying to alienate the youth. You're the most beloved by Allah. Remember that. The second point I want to go over really quickly is that, you might be looking at me and saying, Brother Waleed, this is a great talk or whatever, a great topic. What in the world do you know about raising teenagers? You got 2 little kids. You've never raised teenagers in your life. What do you know about raising teenagers? And that is 100% valid. I do not know a thing about raising teenagers, but this is where I'm sourcing my information for today. And I kind of mentioned it briefly a little bit. And that is that we're having these conversations, people my age. We're having these conversations about the problems, the mistakes that previous generations made and how we can change them. And one of the things that is going on with our generation is, or for previous generation, with what we talk a lot about, is growing up in this Muslim bubble. Growing up in this Muslim bubble. I mentioned that before, right? I said, kids just dropping off their kids, or parents dropping off their kids, just wanting to be around Muslims and thinking everything is okay. And now when we have discussions, we realize these problems. So what I'm going to share with you is some of our conversations. I'm going to spill the tea, as the kids say, or the Spanish-speaking folks, the cheese man. I'm going to share that with you. This is kind of like the behind the scenes. I'm also going to pull from my experience in previous youth halaqas, where talking with youth and seeing the issues that have come up. And thirdly, part of my job, my present job right now at the university I work at is I'm a campus counselor. I'm a college counselor. So I have spend my time one-on-one talking with college age youth. And so these are things I'm pulling from. Now, the first part, when I said the Muslim bubble, I'm going to share 2 stories with you about why this approach is a little bit problematic and some conversations we've had. One of my friends who had been out of state for many years, and he recently returned back, and we all grew up in the similar same community, and we had lunch and we're talking. He's like, we're reminiscing. He said, I hung out with some of, so-and-so who we grew up with. It was just really weird because we were hanging around. We haven't seen each other in years. This is late 20s, early 30s, folks. And, all of a sudden we're hanging out, we're having a good time. All of a sudden they start smoking weed, right? They just, pull out some bags and start smoking. Now, I know for the youth now, weed is not that big a deal. I'm not justifying, I'm not saying that, but that's the reality. We can't put our heads in the sand. A lot of you have older cousins maybe who smoke and do this and that. It's still a problem. It's still a problem. But we're having this conversation. He's like, you know what? Like, we grew up together. Like, the worst people did was do like shisha, hookah. You know, I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying that's what it is. He said the worst people did. Some people had haram relationships. Again, that's the reality. I'm not saying it's okay, but that's the reality. They never smoked weed. Why all of a sudden in your 30s are you choosing to do that? What's happening? We spoke with another kid. This was in a separate situation, but another family friend who several years ago who was going to Islamic high school, right? Going to Islamic high school, and we're saying like, you know, how is everything? What's it like? This and that. And he was saying, you know, it's just really weird. It's strange. Like, we hang out as guys together in somebody's house, and you know, we're playing video games or whatever, and it's time for salah, and half of us go pray, and half of us refuse to pray, don't want to pray. Now, I want to clarify something here. It's not that they're forgetting to pray. Like I said, I forgot to pray all the time when I was young. Like, that's a reality for a lot of us. They're refusing to pray. There's a difference here. Why is that happening? And these are families that grew up in the Muslim community. This is not some rural Muslim community that doesn't have resources. These are communities that had a lot of resources, that had speakers coming at a national level. Like, you know, how people talk about Dallas today, that was the Bay Area back then. So what was going on? That's what we're trying to figure out. And so there's 3 things I want to point out that we're going to go over. The first is that I think I've come up from these patterns that we've seen in conversations. The first is to make Islam more relevant. And then growing up in these Muslim bubbles, one of the things I noticed was we had a lot of speakers coming, not a lot of people taking them seriously. A lot of those youth, the parents did not encourage them to go seek knowledge. So there wasn't a respect for ilm in these communities. And one of the first things that you could do as a parent, I think everyone has to do this, is make your household a source of knowledge. Make it a place of knowledge, Take classes within your household. We have so much accessibility now. There's no excuse, really. There's so many online platforms. There's so many, there's different ideologies, different people you can pull from. There's so many women ulama out there, so many that you can learn from. But I will say, seeking ilm, seeking traditional knowledge is not enough. It's not enough. And I mentioned this last time I spoke here. Previously, last year, there was a lecture by Imam Tahir and Sheikh Talal. And they both went over this. They mentioned that there are people who like kids who spend their lives in hifz, spend their lives at the feet of scholars, and then they become atheists, or they leave traditional Islam. How does that happen? Why does that happen? They mentioned that you need to start studying Islam at a deeper intellectual level for your kids. So this is the first intervention that you can do. First intervention that you can do is start playing lectures in the household, okay? Let's say you're watching a movie, and before watching a movie, 20 minutes beforehand, hey, we're gonna listen to a lecture that discusses modernity, discusses social issues, deals with issues that relate to doubt in the deen and things like that. We're gonna listen to this, and then we're gonna have a discussion. Just 20 minutes. When you're cooking at the dinner table, when you're setting up the dinner table, just play a lecture, and then you can talk about it. In the car, 20, 30 minutes before anyone goes on the phone, let's listen to a lecture. Let's talk a little bit about it. You do this slowly, gradually over time. I guarantee it, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. When your kids are college age and they're on their own, and now the doubts start to creep in, and they're confronted with issues, and their iman is a little bit shaky, and they're trying to explore Islam on their own, those voices that you spent so many years investing in that are in their subconscious, they're going to come out. They're going to start hearing those lectures that you played for them. But if you don't do that, they're not going to get it from anywhere else. They're not going to get it from their friends because their friends' names Muhammad and Khadija and this and that. No. if we want our kids to appreciate Islam, we have to study in the household. That's kind of 1A, because there's a second part to that. There's a 1B to making Islam more relevant. And that is, how do we explain to the youth? How do we explain to the youth why they should appreciate Islam and what Islam is protecting them from? How do we explain to them the harm that Islam is protecting them from? How do we explain that things that are haram lead to harm? Always remember that haram leads to harm. How do we explain that relationship to kids? How do we explain that to them when they're not surrounded by societal harm? They don't see evil in society. It's almost like explaining, like trying to appreciate your health when you've never seen sickness or death, or trying to appreciate wealth when you've never seen poverty. How do you do that? And the suburban Muslim community, by and large, has not seen societal evils in society. They have not. They've been sheltered by it. Alhamdulillah, we don't pray for calamity. We don't pray for evil. The inner city Muslim community, I want to make that this, the inner city Muslim community, they've seen the societal evils because they are living in structural racism, structural oppression, structural violence. So the inner city Muslim community, they've seen that. And many of you who maybe as parents who come from other countries, or who have parents that come from other countries, who have seen war, who have come from developing countries, you understand that reality. You've seen the evil, you understand the reality. But the kids don't. The kids do not. So how can they appreciate Islam when they haven't seen darkness? How can they appreciate the nur when they haven't seen the darkness? And this is one of the reasons I got into this work, this, if you want to call it dawah work, or whatever you want to put a name on that. Because I spent many years as a behavioral health worker. And I was like, these are things that I need to share with people, because I want you to understand your Islam hits differently when you walk into a household and you see a mom passed out on pills while the kids are running around. Your Islam hits differently. Your Islam hits differently when you're talking with women who are dealing with substance dependence issues that tell you that they start trafficking themselves at the age of 12, 13. Your Islam hits differently. Your Islam hits differently when you're sitting across from a teenage father who's been convicted and you're in a jail with him. And he's explaining to you that he had to rob and sell drugs to provide for his infant son. Your Islam hits differently. Young youth here, you have doubts about the deen. You have doubts about the deen? Go see the reality. And this is what I tell parents, is that you want your kids to see the relevance of Islam. You have to take them into the conditions in society where you see depravity, where you see oppression. This is from the Sunnah as well. The Sahaba, they were a mix of people. They saw the evils in society. That's part of how they were guided to Islam. And so the example I like to give a lot of times is, like, I know a lot of you might not admit it or not, a lot of the kids don't know it or not, but future pre-med students here, right? You want your kids to go to med school maybe, they don't even know it yet, but they're pre-med. And I tell this to parents a lot of times. I say, look, you want your kid to go to pre-med? Okay, great. Have them volunteer at a community health center. Have them volunteer at inner city community health center. So you take that kid. Don't have them volunteer at a little hospital in Mountain House or Tracy. Go to Pittsburgh, go to Stockton, go to the East Bay, Oakland, volunteer in a clinic there, and then see the reality of the world. Go volunteer at an after-school program where you see kids a lot of times in these inner city neighborhoods who have to wear the same clothes day after day because they don't have multiple changes of clothes, where they talk about violence so casually because they're confronted with it every day. that reality hits you differently. For the sisters and the brothers, you have doubts about your religion? Sisters, go visit the Chowchilla sisters in prison. Go visit the sisters in prison. Brothers, go to San Quentin, go to Folsom, go visit the brothers in prison. You will see when you meet those Muslims in prison, you will have the best khushu' and salah that you ever had. You have the best khushu' and salah that you ever had. And I say this because that is the reality that makes that Islam enter the heart. It's the reality that makes a lot of non-Muslims enter the heart. We need our kids to go through that experience in a safe manner. Again, we appreciate the safety. We appreciate the safety and the wealth that Allah has given us. We don't pray for calamity, but we have to teach our children the reality of the evils of the world. The second point, inshallah, is helping kids deal with their insecurities. Helping kids deal with their insecurities. Like I said, I'm a college counselor. Part of my job, part of my responsibilities is counseling, and counseling not in terms of therapy, but just having one-on-one meetings, guiding students, helping them vent. I want, again, the youth to listen to this and understand. I know as a Muslim kid, a lot of times we feel very different. And we look out at the other world, other kids, and we're like, are they like me? Are they like me? Are they going through the same insecurities? Are they dealing with confidence issues? Are they feeling this imposter syndrome that I'm feeling? Are they trying to find themselves, like who we are as a person, who we are as people? And I'm gonna tell you this, after me, I met hundreds of students. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter how they dress. It doesn't matter their friends, their social life. It doesn't matter how they carry themselves. You can look at somebody and you can think, oh, they have everything going on in life. When I talk to them, they are, I don't want to say a mess, but they're dealing with so much insecurity. And this is a pattern in these generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, but it's not because they're weak. It's not because they're weak. We keep saying that. We have to stop saying that. It's not because they're weaker and they're less resilient. You know why they're feeling a lot more? Because they're confronted with so much content that maximizes and intensifies their insecurities on social media. We were never confronted with that. Maybe on MTV, maybe you're browsing through a magazine. That was it. They're constantly confronted with that. And that's their culture. That defines their culture. TikTok, Instagram, whether you like it or not, that defines youth culture. I will never forget a young girl in one of the youth halaqas mentioned, she said, every time I open TikTok, I feel bad about myself. Like, how horrible is that? Every day, you just feel bad about yourself. And it's so interesting, right? Because if we look at the hadith, when it talks about how we should deal with the dunya and people in the dunya, it says, انظروا إلى من أسفل منكم ولا تنظروا إلى من هو فوقكم. Look at those in the dunya who are below you. Don't look at those who are above you. Social media flips that on its head. Social media flips that on its head. The Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's advice, it goes opposite. You are confronted with every single person who in the dunya is just like excelling in the dunya. And it's all manufactured. Whether it's wealth, whether it's body image, it's all manufactured. But teenagers, they can't understand that. And so they're affected by it. It affects their hearts. And of course it does, because whenever you turn away from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when you turn away from Islam, right, you're turning away from peace. So how do we deal with that? One of the ways that we can deal with that is to first this is one thing I tell students. So 3 things, actually, I'm gonna go over 3 things to help deal with insecurities. The first, whenever somebody comes to me and is saying, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling, have a lot of anxiety, depression, this and that, I ask them, okay, like, how often do you work out? How often do you work out? That's one of the first things that if you're concerned about anxiety, depression in your kids, one of the most strongest evidence-based ways to reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress is exercise on a daily basis, or at least five days a week, half an hour, 40 minutes. And it sounds so like obscure and like whatever, like, no, like this is also part of the sunnah, but it's the evidence shows this is one of the strongest ways. And you can do this as a family. I mentioned before, like seeking knowledge, you can do that as a family. You can also do this as a family. It could be intentional family time. If you have space in the home, you buy a little home gym, you make a little calendar, you incentivize it for your kids, you make it enjoyable as a group, as a family. Hey, have you done your workout today? Have you done your work? Okay, let's do it together, blah, blah, blah. It's something that if they get into the habit of it, again, you will see, inshallah, that is a way to remedy mental ills and increase mental wellness. A second part of that is to have your kids involved and excelling in extracurricular activities, because these are healthy outlets for kids. I shouldn't say kids, I say youth, youngsters. I'll say youngsters because y'all not kids. But whenever someone, whatever it is, whether it's sports, whether it's the arts, whether it's anything else, when a kid can excel in something like that, it is an outlet for them and it's a confidence builder. I know my wife shared with me, there's one sister here, young sister, I think, who's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, black belt or something like that. That's an amazing thing. I remember when we were in college, there was this young sister. She was this her demeanor was quiet, and this Afghan Muhajjaba girl, but she was an amazing poet. And she would go on the stage at UC Davis, like a non-Muslim platforms, in front of everybody, in these open mics, and she would recite her poetry, and she would mesmerize the crowd. She had them like this, the power that she wielded, and she became renowned on campus for her poetry. That's such a huge confidence builder. And these are things like take time. It's okay if there are things that, are not academic related, even not directly religious related, that you want to do to help your kids have a healthy outlet and build their confidence. The third thing I would recommend doing, this one's important too. It is having your kids start working and getting a job. I can tell really noticeably when I'm talking with students, especially if I'm helping them with resumes and things like that, there's a difference between those who come into college with a strong work history and those who don't. It's not just about their career orientation. It's about the way they carry themselves. You want your kid to mature, get them a job, not some in the Muslim community necessarily, but any job out there. When you get a paycheck, you feel so confident, you feel so mature. And the confidence that you feel from that is truly immense. Now, you're going to be listening to this right now, and you're going to be thinking, I don't blame you for this. You're going to be saying, Waleed, that's just really naive. That's just really naive thinking. What you're saying that, exercise a little more, do a little extracurricular, get a job. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to save your kids. That is naive if you think about it in those terms. But I'm going to explain it to you. So we have a youth, I don't want to be disrespectful to the youth here, not a kid, but a youth who, maybe they're engaged in ilm. You're exposing them to knowledge. right? Practical, deep, intellectual Islamic knowledge. They're volunteering, right? They're doing khidmah in the community. It's still khidmah, even if it's to non-Muslims. It's khidmah. So they're helping on the Muslim community. They're seeing the societal problems. They're exercising. They have a healthy lifestyle. Maybe they have the extracurricular activity. They're working. This creates what? A holistic individual. That's what we're looking for here. A holistic individual. We're cultivating a holistic individual. And the reason why we're doing that, there's an old logic in psychology. It's about social domains. So like basically where your networks are, okay? And the more social domains you have, the more balanced personality you have, the less, you help them out, inshallah. Yeah. Don't worry, we're gonna act like we didn't see that. So social domains, right? So the more social domains you have, the more protected you are from, again, these depressive, anxiety-inducing symptoms. And there's a reason for that. I'm gonna break it down for you. Typically speaking, like youngsters, they're either in school or at home. Let's say for average middle schooler, school is a little rough right now. Maybe their social life, it's not really that great. There's drama, whatever it is. They're not really doing well academically. School is a downer for them. They feel bad about school. They don't like school. And then they go home. And maybe they go home and justifiably or unjustifiably, they don't like it at home. They don't like it at home. They don't like you as parents in this moment. They're upset at home. And I say justifiably or unjustifiably because sometimes as parents, we can be over-controlling, like, micromanaging, fear-mongering. And at the same time, youth can be entitled, they can be brats, they could be self-centered, they could be also, both things are really true, right? There, a lot of times the truth is in the middle. So their school life is bad, their home life is bad, everything in their life now just feels negative, okay? Now let's say that kid has some outlets. Maybe they like to hoop, and they go to the court, they go to the gym, and they play ball. And they have a really great game, and they feel really good, and they're happy, right? They got that stress out of their body through exertion. They feel really good about themselves. Maybe they go to work, and they got their paycheck, and they feel really happy about their paycheck. And maybe they have, good interactions at work. Now, because we expanded the 2 social domains into 4 social domains, there's a balance. Yes, there's 2 negatives with school and home, but there's also 2 positives. Now, we're gonna circle back here because I want us to connect the dots. Going back to the 2 examples I started off with, why are these 30-year-olds smoking weed? Why are these youngsters refusing to pray? Again, it's not that they're forgetting to pray. It's almost like they're refusing to pray. Before I address that, I do want to say one thing, though. I'm going to keep repeating it. Allah is most knowing of what's in our hearts. Allah is most knowing about who's the most righteous. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, they're bad Muslims and they're gonna go to hell. Like, that's not from us. That's not from our teachings as Sunni Muslims. Like, we don't know who's most beloved, who's most righteous to Allah. They might make tawbah tomorrow and be the best Muslims. And we might be stuck in our mediocre Islam. And this is something that's been discussed by the ulama of tasawwuf. That sometimes the sinner who repents is far better. Even if they did a lifetime of sinning, at the end they repent and their last years are filled with righteousness. They are high above those who are just mediocre going along in their religion. So we don't judge people Again, we're approaching this as parents who want to protect our kids. And then also, too, sharing with youth the reality of what's out there so you know and you understand and you're prepared. But so what's going on, right? This 30-year-old who suddenly decides to smoke weed, is it because Islam really never penetrated their hearts? Do they not really care about what's halal and haram? They don't care about Quran and Sunnah? Is there a void in their life that they're trying to fill? That those kids who are refusing to pray, is it because they're trying to be bad and trying to be cool and whatever because they feel insecure about themselves? Because they're trying to front like they're like some tough kids or whatever? Because they feel bad about, lower self-esteem, which we all have, by the way. I want to say this clearly again for the youth who are here. Like, if you were to open up our hearts as adults, you would see an insecure teenager in there. As youth, like, everyone feels so insecure. It's such an awkward age. It's normal to feel insecure and have low self-esteem. But we want to bring that up. We want to help empower and elevate our youth, not oppress them. So is this what's going on? A kid who feels insecure now doesn't want to pray? Possibly. There's another major reason, though. I think, and I've seen this again more so as a college counselor, who I have Muslim youth who are in our programs and things like that. There's a third reason that I want to get into. And it's that trauma and abuse in the household will turn your kids away from Islam. Will turn your kids away from Islam. Now, I said statistics and patterns show that suburban Muslims, generally speaking, do not experience the same social problems and social hazards as other populations. But it doesn't mean that abuse doesn't happen in our communities. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. And I want to say that, make dua for afiyah and shifa and faraj for any survivors of abuse who are here. May Allah grant them healing. Abuse and trauma. And I'm using that very generally. And if there are perpetrators in here, be honest here, seek professional help. Seek professional. Alhamdulillah, now we have a lot of therapists who are embedded in traditional Islam. They're rooted in traditional Islam. It's not some Western form of therapy that's going to, change your aqidah. They're rooted in traditional Islam. Seek help. Because what happens is that your kids will see this abuse, and when they go off to college, Islam will leave their hearts. Islam will leave their hearts. I've seen this to many kids. Many kids. And the reality is, for adults, if you think about it, think about your own life growing up. When you went to the masjid, a lot of times, the most outwardly religious people in the masjid were the most toxic, had the worst adab. The uncles who used to yell at kids, who caused fitna. Sometimes in our families, sometimes the people in our families causing fitna are the ones who are outwardly most religious. Again, I remember a young lady shared in the halaqah, actually there's a couple of them that said this. They said, we come to the masjid and the aunties look at us up and down like they don't even want us there. They look at us up and down like they don't even want, like, what are you doing here? Is that how we approach, we have Islam presented to our youth? And then I'll tell you what happens. Because what do you teach Islam in Islamic schools, Sunday schools, in the introduction to Islam books? What do you teach about the shama'in and adab of the Prophet ﷺ? That he was rahmatul lil alameen, he was the most sweet, he was the most kind, he was always smiling. They don't see that in the masjid, but you know where they're going to see it? At their college counselor's office. They're going to see the sunnah, not in the masjid, in their college counselor's office. They're going to see it in self-help groups, in social justice circles, that's where they're going to see it. And you're going to see Islam's going to leave like that. Because why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? And we act and we say, oh, you know, they're getting brainwashed when they go to school. They're not getting brainwashed when they go to school. They've just gone through this harsh Islam, this trauma, this toxic presentation of Islam. And for the first time, they've seen good adab, and they see it from non-Muslims. Now, I will say this. Again, a young college-age person coming in, they're not going to understand this. I understand this because I've navigated these circles. It's very superficial. When you see this like hipster, yuppie, oh, everything's cool and like we're all together, it's very superficial. So don't be fooled by it. The best form of rahmah comes from this religion. Institutionalized, organized through this religion. But we have to present that to our kids. And that's the problem when I say here, actually, Zidan, can you do one thing for me? Do you see that the cards behind the speaker? Is it finished? No, not the Harry Potter ones. The bucket with the flashcards, yeah. Can you just pass that around with a pen if anybody has questions? I'm sorry, I should have asked you earlier. But that trauma and abuse is what is going to divorce our kids from Islam. And so we have to be very cognizant. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. We have to be very cognizant of how we're dealing with this and presenting Islam in our homes. So to review the 3 things, or maybe the 5 things, if we're going to split it down. Make Islam relevant in your household. Do so by implementing lectures. Make it intentional family time. 2, have your kids volunteer in places that are facing a lot of oppression, where there's low income, when there's social problems. Have them volunteer there and then discuss it as a family. 3, 4, and 5. Do things that help build their confidence. Working out, extracurricular activities, getting a job, building that work ethic, and finally, whatever harm is in the household, remove it. That's one of the principles of Islam. Ad-dararu yuzal. We removing harm. That's one of our principles and foundations. And so with that, inshallah, we'll conclude. Allah grant us tawfiq and istiqamah. Allahumma ighfir lil-mu'minina wal-mu'minat wal-muslimina wal-muslimat al-ahya'i minhum wal-amwat. Allahumma ansur al-mujahidin fi kulli makan wal-muslimin wal-mustad'afin wal-masakin bi-rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. All right, so I passed the note cards around because I thought maybe sometimes people are shy to ask questions, but if anybody has questions off the top, feel free, inshallah. I feel like we all know what her question is. Like it? I won't read it now. I'm not gonna read it now. I'll put it on the bottom here. So we'll mix it up. Because that privacy, that's the point of it. I can read it? Oh, okay. All right. Sure. Inshallah, bismillah. Okay. Oh, it's thinking about stuff in prayer haram if you can't help it. It's thinking about stuff in prayer haram if you can't help it. So, I mean, generally speaking, I don't want to I just want to caveat say this, I don't like to answer fiqh questions or any aqidah questions because I want to stay in my lane. But this is more, I guess, you could say nasiha advice about improving our khushu' in salah. Thinking about stuff in salah, I'm going to tell you, I asked my teacher this question. So I'm going to say, Sheikh, I'm struggling right now, in salah, I just keep getting distracted. I said, there's so much stuff in my life right now. And there's so much stuff going on. And my teacher, mashallah, like he studied a lot more. He has degrees and this and that. And he told me, he's like, well, these same things happen to me right now. He said, this is someone who's a scholar. And he said, honestly, the same thing's happening with me. And he said, this happens to us. As long as you are making mujahadah throughout your life, that you're trying to improve on your khushu' and salah. And firstly, I would say, whoever wrote this question, is that, start by taking a class on salah. Because one of the first things we don't understand is that there's all these intricacies in salah. Those intricacies are there to help you concentrate. Whether you want to hold your hand like this or hold it down, where you want to raise your hands, these little things, these little adhkar in salah, the wudu is the key to salah, the gateway to salah. So doing little sunan of wudu, this all helps. At the same time, like my teacher said, you're always going to be thinking about things. One of the sayings of the righteous people in the past was that we worked on salah for 40 years and we enjoyed it for 40 more. So what that means, if you take that, like they worked on salah for 40 years, right? And then they reached a certain point where, wow, they really connected in their salah and they enjoyed it for 40 more. What that tells us is probably we're going to work on it for like 80 years. And maybe inshallah, at the end of our lives, Allah grant us long lives filled with rizq and worship. And then inshallah, we'll enjoy it. But when you purify your intention and you intend, inshallah, I'm going to concentrate, I'm going to have khushu' and salah, that's what matters most, and that you keep trying and improving yourself. I hope that answered the question. Anybody else? If you want to. I could read it. It's cool. I'll make you walk a little bit more. So now. Okay. So now. If you don't pray 5 times a day, does that make you a kafir? Again, so this is like an aqeedah issue that I don't want to delve into. I would say this: if this is a youth, like a young person answering this question, again, I think the important part is that 2 things. If you are trying and you're just not able to, like, that's okay. Like, you're just on your spiritual journey right now. You're just on your spiritual journey. It's okay. You're growing in it. And if you're not praying 5 times a day because you have shak in your heart, you have doubts in your heart, the responsibility on you is to start learning the religion. Like, don't close yourself off to the deen. Just keep trying to learn. And slowly, Islam will start, entering your heart more and more. And maybe you'll feel at a place where you want to pray. Now, that's if it's a youth. If this is an adult, I think it's better to ask like someone who's a sheikh, because again, like these matters, it depends on who's asking the question. Like and as the fuqaha say, the fatwa changes with the time and the conditions. And so I'll open up this other one, inshallah. Is not praying Fajr haram for kids that are 14 years old? And in a similar way, right? So I want to just bring this point up. You are a related matter. And I think what I want to actually get at, do you see the pattern here? Do you see the pattern in the questions? This is my point. They're just 13, 14. And they're thinking, am I kafir? Am I haram? And that's important. I'm not saying it's not important to focus on those things, but that is what they're faced with before they even love Islam. Like, this is what they're at. And so, again, I'll say the same thing. Like, if you're struggling in your salat to get up for Fajr, like, alhamdulillah, it's a struggle. If you wake up in the morning and feel like, oh man, I miss Fajr, like, that's okay. Inshallah, make the intention. And you might struggle with it for a year. I'll share my experience. Like I said, throughout high school, I forget to pray all the time. And if I prayed, it was like really just like, I don't know if it even counted. It was just like up and down, whatever, trying to get it in this last minute, 30 seconds of the time. When I got to college is when I was like, okay, I want to really try to pray. You know how long it took me to really pray 5 times a day? It took me 6 months of intentionally trying to pray 5 times a day. It took me 6 months. Sometimes I had to write it on my pray asr because I would forget because like I was in class or something like that. And so, the struggle is okay. The struggle is part of the deen. It's mujahada, right? Allah is open. You're 14. Allah you're just starting on your journey. Allah has rahmah on you as long as you're trying. And again, if there's an uncomfortability with Islam, Allah tells us, use your intellect, ask questions. So just, if you don't feel it in your heart at this moment, just keep trying to learn about the deen. Okay, is that it? Are there any other questions? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Which I'm doing on my bachelor as well for our kids. But is there any specific dua or from Sunnah which is that you think specifically someone like Sahara or those duas? Is there anyone specific for praying for righteous children?
Yeah, that's a great question. There definitely are. I mean, off the top, I'm trying to think. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. That Allah, make them the قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. I don't know how to sakina and like the pleasure of my eye. رَبِّي جَعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي. Like make us a family of salah. I think there's a lot of, this is such a terrible answer to tell you, just go Google it. But there definitely are du'as. And I think, sometimes Googling doesn't help. I would say if you're really trying to find something, because that's such a great comment that you mentioned. And I love it because that's probably the first thing is that making du'a for your kids is probably, that's something my dad always taught me. And I've seen it in my life. And my dad pointed this out. Allah bless him. He'd always tell me, he said, never stop Allah never stops listening to the dua of parents. And even I've seen this when children stray away and the parents consistently make dua. I've seen this so many times, subhanAllah, the kids come back. Many. So this is like the best thing. There are du'as. I think you can look them up. One of the things that's really great to recite, and it's not from a sunnah, it's just from a practice, like Surah Maryam, like the first 10, 20 ayahs, because that is directly about, wanting the desire and raising righteous children. But yeah, there's a lot of du'as for specifically raising righteous. But even what you're doing right now, I think even if there's not a specific dua, like that is the most beautiful thing, inshallah. Thank you for that reminder. Oh. Okay. Should we end then? Alhamdulillah. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Oh, there's another question? Oh, you're just trying to mess with her. If you yawn, shoot, I don't know. You got to ask your teeth. It's such, again, I think I'm not trying to belittle your question. I don't think I think if you're someone who is having tahara and you're reciting your adhkar and this and that, shaitan's not even going to touch you. If there's a hadith on that, I don't know, and Allah knows best. But yeah, again, this is what I'm saying. This is the culture that we're raising our Muslims in. This is what they're concerned about, and we have to, I think, teach Islam at a deeper level, which I know Zaytech is really trying to do. MashaAllah. You said you had another question? Oh. Oh, you gotta ask your teachers, your shuyukh. I can't answer that question. I don't know. Like I said, fiqh questions I want to stay away from. So I'm sorry. Inshallah, that's why we're trying to get some more better speakers. Inshallah, next month, inshallah, we're trying to organize a speaker to come, so you don't have to listen to me no more. But inshallah, in December and January, trying to line up some more speakers that'll be beneficial. So, is that it then? Okay.
Jazakallah khair. Not sure if you guys can hear me. Inshallah, we'll pray Isha prayer now, and then after Isha prayer, we'll come back here and enjoy some pizza. So the pizza is going to be here around 9:05, 9:10. That's when the delivery will be coming. No.
Oh yeah, y'all were doing good. Wait, 9:50?
Zidane, is there water, bro?
How does that work?
I don't know where this. Oh, that one. Okay, I'm gonna get it.
We're cooked, bro. We're just like second grade now, like people.
Oh, you got it?
Exactly. I don't want to do the whole time.
What's your name? Oh, that's what's up. My kid's name's Hadid. Do you go to school?
No, I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.